Yeah, no passports required when you step into the midnight jam. We building up a bridge across the concrete and the sand. The rhythm is the universal language of the unforgiving street, connecting every culture strictly through the boom bap beat. The boom bap beat. The rhythm is the universal language of the unforgiving streets, connecting every culture strictly through the boom bap beat. I see a crew from Latin America flipping on the concrete floor right beside the reggae selectors, demanding a loud encore. The break dancer spinning on the flattened cardboard box, shaking the foundation of the heavily divided blocks. I parked the compact hatchback right on the edge of the scene, keeping the 96 aesthetic undeniably and strictly clean. Katia steps out, smiling at the vibrant neighborhood, understanding completely that the cultural energy is good. We got the golden era hip-hop bridging the massive gap, putting every single hidden nation right on the local map. We don't need a politician trying to dictate the heavy laws. We completely united by the undeniable vinyl flaws. The needle hits the groove, the upright bass starts to walk, erasing all the ignorance and the hateful street talk. A beautiful collision of the different human shades right before the heavy summer evening completely fades. No passports required when you step into the midnight jam. We building up a bridge across the concrete and the sand. The rhythm is the universal language of the unforgiving street, connecting every culture, strictly through the boom bap beat. Boom bap beat. The rhythm is the universal language of the unforgiving street, connecting every culture, strictly through the boom bap beat. The heavy microphone is passed around the massive street circle. Underneath the heavy sky turning deep and dark purple. One brother spitting heavy lyrics straight from New York, another dropping poetry sharper than a silver pitchfork. I take the heavy metal mic and let the raw syllables fly, switching up the dialect, looking straight into the eye. They might not catch every single foreign noun or reverb, but they feel the raw emotion vibrating right off the curb, because the struggle and the joy sound the exact same way, no matter where you sleep at the end of the working day. This is the undeniable magic of the golden era sound, turning any broken pavement into a sacred holy ground. So let the heavy corners play, let the trumpet cry out loud. 100 different flags flying high above the peaceful crowd. The music tore the absolute massive borders completely down, and built a true global sanctuary right inside the town. The sun dips down and the concrete cools. Night shift taking over, breaking all the rules. No gats in the denim, just the marker in the plan. The whole city's canvas to a dedicated man. I hear the rhythm of the rails, the clacking of the steel. This is how I breathe, brother, this is how I feel. We ain't looking for the trouble, ain't looking for a brawl, just throwing up a burner on the designated wall. It's the silent revolution when the aerosol sprays, cutting through the darkness, cutting through the maze of heavy bass line, bumping from a passing Cadillac while I'm pulling out the colors from the bottom of the sack. They build the monuments for kings with the money and the might, but the kings of the underground govern the night. No blood on the pavement, no chalk on the floor, just the Krylon drips and the legends we restore. Outline the struggle, fill it in with the hope, navigating transit lines, moving down the slope. A flashlight sweeps, I freeze in the cut, heartbeat steady while the iron doors shut. We are phantoms in the yard, spirits in the dark, leaving behind a universal undeniable mark. They call it vandalism, say we're ruining the view, but I'm giving inspiration to the avenue. Look at the wild style, letters interlock, time stands still when the neighborhood is clocked. Every curve is a story, every sharp edge of pain, washed in the rhythm of the midnight rain. They try to buff it out, bring the chemical wash, but you can't erase the spirit that the system tried to squash. My name rides the transit, rolling through the state, a peaceful manifesto on a heavy metal plate. It's a voice for the voiceless, painted loud and proud, standing out bold in the middle of the crowd. When the politicians talk, it's a whisper in the wind, but the writing on the wall shows exactly where we've been. I remember the pioneers who laid the pavement down, bringing vibrant energy to a suffocated town. Now I carry the torch with a fat cap tip, a smooth operator on a visionary trip. No rivalries here, let the colors just clash. Instead of the violence, the iron and the ash. We drop a masterpiece to elevate the mind, the purest expression that humanity can find. So when the dawn breaks and the commuters awake, they see the real history, the path that we take, a gallery of rebels without a single gun, chasing down the moon, waiting for the sun. Punching out the clock, stepping off the cold concrete floor, leaving the complex electrical schematics right behind the door. 5 long days of calculating the relay protection lines. Now the Friday evening sun finally and perfectly shines. I got the dust on my jacket, the exhaustion deep in my spine, but the weekend is completely and undeniably mine. I turn the silver key to 1.3, liter engine wakes, leaving behind the metropolitan stress and the daily heartbreaks. It ain't a massive luxury boat, just my trusty compact ride, but it carries a massive amount of authentic, quiet pride. I drop the cassette tape perfectly into the dashboard deck, keeping the heavy anxiety and the city pressure in check. Listen to that funky upright bass, walking the pavement, friggin' the physical soul from the corporate enslavement. The electric piano chords washing away the intense grind, restoring the absolute peace to the overworked mind. Let the crisp snare drum carry the heavy week away. We survived another unforgiving and chaotic working day. Yeah, the right groove is the absolute undeniable physical cure, making the 95 street survival perfectly secure. Keep the saxophone breathing, let the upright bass roll. We returning to absolute tranquility, directly to the soul. Pull up to the flat, the shadow stretching incredibly long, finding the absolute comfort directly inside this analog song. Catty is waiting by the door, wearing a peaceful warm smile, making the 5-day struggle absolutely completely worthwhile. We don't need a crowded downtown club or a noisy packed bar, just a boom back rhythm echoing perfectly from the car. The warm vinyl crackle filling up the fading evening air, washing away every single drop of the metropolitan care. I leave the university textbooks closed on the wooden desk, escaping the entirely chaotic and demanding concrete mess. When that jazzy horn loop perfectly hits the tired ear, it completely erases the accumulation of the weekly fear. We pour a little sparkle inside her directly into the glass, watching the heavy traffic on the avenue smoothly pass. The analog frequency perfectly massaging the tired brain, washing completely away the physical and mental pain. Let the crisp snare drum carry the heavy week away. We survived another unforgiving and chaotic working day. The right groove is the absolute undeniable physical cure, making the 95 street survival perfectly secure. Keep the saxophone breathing, let the upright bass roll. We return in the absolute tranquility, directly to the soul. You give your physical energy to the massive city machine, navigating the incredibly fast and unforgiving western scene. But the absolute true wealth is discovered on a Friday night, sitting safely directly under the yellow porch light. The saxophone harmonizing perfectly with the cool breeze, putting the exhausted physical body entirely at ease. No heavy voltage calculations, no electrical grids to map out, just erasing the accumulation of the physical doubt. The rhythm is slow, the groove is incredibly deep, preparing the exhausted soul for a peaceful, quiet sleep. This is the undeniable reward for the honest, heavy sweat. The greatest physical 95 feeling that you ever get. So let the magnetic tape continue to smoothly spin. This is exactly where the true weekend can absolutely begin. The yellow school bus pulls away, leaving the asphalt baking in the sun. No heavy boom boxes in the backpack, no expensive radios, just the raw lungs. Listen to that heavy vocal kick drum vibrating right out of the throat. Hear the teeth clicking for the hi-hat, building the absolute undeniable rhythm. Let the human instrument breathe, we creating the physical magic from absolutely nothing. I step right onto the cracked basketball court, dropping the heavy canvas bag. Ain't got no magnetic tapes to play, ain't got no major label brag. Just a circle of the brothers standing around the rusty iron fence, waiting for the absolute rawest acoustic rhythm to finally commence. My man steps into the middle, wiping the sweat from his upper lip, ready to take the entire neighborhood on a completely vocal trip. He takes a deep breath, filling the heavy lungs with the city air, and drops a massive vocal bass line without a single physical care. The heavy sound echoing strictly off the red brick school wall, answering the permanent and righteous 92 street call. No drum machine, no heavy equipment plugged into the socket, just the vocal cords building an incredibly deep rhythmic pocket. He hits his chest with a closed fist, adding a heavy sub thump, making the entire schoolyard circle completely, absolutely jump. The saliva flying, the breath control entirely and flawlessly tight, turning the boring afternoon into a legendary metropolitan sight. I catch the rhythm perfectly, stepping straight into the cipher ring, launching the physical syllables without needing a single guitar string. The beatboxer switches the pattern, throwing in the wild vocal scratch, a pure organic chemistry that absolutely no corporate studio can match. We ain't complaining about the lack of the heavy professional gear, we taking the absolute rawest elements and eliminating the fear. The kids running across the blacktop, completely freezing, turn around, drawn directly to the magnetic pull of this heavy human sound. He mimics a heavy synthesizer while perfectly using just the teeth, exposing the incredible musical genius hiding right underneath. I spit the raw poetry, matching the aggressive speed of his tongue, proving exactly how the golden era street anthems are physically sung. No heavy cables to trip over, no blown out speaker cones to replace, just the raw, unadulterated hip-hop energy strictly in your face. The crowd starts clapping on the 2 and the 4, building the snare, sending a massive wave of the pure rhythm directly into the air. This is the ultimate heavy independence, the most accessible physical art, requiring absolutely $0, just a heavily dedicated heart. You can strip away the heavy vinyl records and the expensive studio time, but you can absolutely never kill the heavy street rhythm and the rhyme. He drops a complex syncopated pattern, manipulating the airflow, creating the absolute heaviest acoustic foundation that the streets know. We built an entire heavy nightclub using absolutely nothing but the breath, defending the true hip-hop culture directly against the physical death. The school bell rings loud, echoing violently across the cement yard, but the cipher doesn't stop. The vocal rhythm is hitting way too hard. He drops one final heavy vocal snare, letting the acoustic echo fade, knowing exactly how the authentic underground legends are strictly made. We grab the heavy backpacks, walking away with a permanent smile, carrying the undisputed heavy rhythm for another metropolitan mile. The needle drops, the needle drops into the needle drops into the groove. The thick static starts to sing, unlocking the hidden frequencies that the ancient musicians bring. We resurrecting the dead notes, giving them a second chance to breathe, creating a pure physical magic that the metropolitan streets believe. Back in the lab, the yellow lamp illuminates the turntable deck. I wipe the vinyl surface clean, keeping the dust particles in check. Catch it sitting on the velvet couch, nodding gently to the raw sound, while I search for the absolute hardest drum break ever found. I pitch the tempo strictly down, making the horn section drag, capturing the undeniable essence inside the analog bag. The drum machine pads getting completely punished by the fingertips, translating the old soul music directly into the rhythmic scripts. I isolate the upright bass, filtering out the higher noise, separating the authentic craftsmen from the artificial boys. Every single crackle in the background adds a deep layer of the truth, a beautiful imperfection preserved directly in the recording booth. It takes an incredible amount of patience to find the perfect loop, digging entirely through the historical and musical soup. The needle drops into the groove, the thick static starts to sing, unlocking the hidden frequencies that the ancient musicians bring. We resurrecting the dead notes, giving them a second chance to breathe, creating a pure physical magic that the metropolitan streets believe. They ask why I spend hours breathing in the damn basement air when the industry is rushing forward without a single care. But the authentic 95 soul absolutely cannot be rushed. It lives inside the deep grooves where the original art is brushed. I'm weaving the historical timeline, connecting the past to the present, making sure the authentic hip-hop foundation remains omnipresent. We strictly honoring the architects who laid the tracks in the dark, leaving an undeniably beautiful and completely permanent mark. The rhythmic sequence perfectly locking into the dusty piano chord, the absolute greatest physical treasure that the street hustler can't afford. I hit the silent record and committing the raw sequence to the tape, providing the exhaust, the neighborhood with the flawless and the longest escape. The vintage vinyl stacks completely covering the living room wall, the undisputed ammunition for the undeniable hip-hop call. The needle drop. Dusting off the hardcover. Dusting off the hardcover, breathing in the scent of ancient paper pages where the heavy minds went. I ain't standing on the corner just pitching a dime. I'm deep inside the library, mastering the rhyme, flipping through the chapters, soaking up the ink, ticking every paragraph and learning how to think. Brothers out there frontin', trying to act so hard. I pack a dictionary, I'm the neighborhood bard. Vocabulary building like a skyline view, dropping heavy syllables, creating something new. They mumble on the mic, lacking substance in the breath, while I speak a lexicon that defies the grip of death. My syntax is a weapon, my grammar is the clip. Every metaphor I drop got a heavy, steady grip. I study the philosophers, the poets, and the wise, to wipe the blind illusions from a generation's eyes. They boast about the chains and the money on the block, but a cultivated mind is a different kind of rock. I dig into the crates, not for vinyl, but the prose, finding hidden rhythms that only a scholar knows. A sentence is a journey, a paragraph a ride, with a heavyweight thesaurus sitting right by my side. I elevate the cipher, bringing intellect to the street, making every complex syllable bounce upon the beat. Words are like the bricks I'm building. Words are like the bricks. I'm building up an empire, fueling up the brain to keep feeding the fire, while others spit the same old tired routine. I'm painting vivid pictures, setting up the scene, from Malcolm on the page to the rebels of the past. I channel all the wisdom to make the message last. The literal assassin dropping knowledge from the shelf. The greatest wealth you gather is the knowledge of yourself. So let the boombox bump and the needle hit the groove. I'm using elevated language just to make the people move. A renaissance of rhythm, a scholarly attack, putting heavy literature on a heavy boom bap track. Neighborhood law. He drops the heavy diamond needle straight into the black magnetic groove, dictating exactly how the exhausted physical metropolitan bodies move. You see the MCs getting all the magazine covers in the shining flash, chasing the temporary neighborhood glory in the folded paper cash. But the MC is absolutely completely powerless without the man spinning the wax. The DJ is the spinal cord, the foundation, the undeniable and heavy facts. He cuts the heavy horn sample, juggling the break right on the one, creating the flawless physical loop before the first verse has even begun. The subterranean bass line rattling the bottle, sitting on the wooden bar, proving the man behind the wheels of steel is the absolute true Western star. A slight flick of the wrist and the heavy snare drum violently reverses, providing the ultimate canvas for the poets to paint their physical verses. He's a mathematician, matching the tempos completely by the physical ear, washing away the heavy accumulation of the daily metropolitan fear. I I watch and read the room, sensing the exact frequency of the human sweat, building the absolute greatest 90T2E musical tension that you can get. When the crowd gets tired, he switches the wax to a smooth soul loop, uniting every single divided neighborhood block and fractured street group. Without the DJ, this is just a dark room filled with the empty silence. He is the absolute undisputed peacekeeper, stopping the avenue. Violence, the physical friction of the slip mat spinning against the cold aluminum platter, reminding the youth that the heavy corporate radio stations absolutely don't matter. He catches the heavy hi-hat, transforming the sound with a swift baby scratch, lighting up the entire physical dance floor without using a single match. The milk crates are heavy, carrying the undeniable weight of the musical history, solving the massive and complex 92E metropolitan sonic mystery. We standing directly by the speaker box, letting the raw vibration heal, showing the absolute maximum respect to the hands on the wheels of steel. The screaming saxophone lit cuts through the heavy air like a sharp blade, reminding the entire city exactly how the true underground legends are made. He got the heavy finger stain with the dust from the basement record store, delivering a massive and immeasurable dose of the rhythm right to the core. So raise the glass for the silent king entirely, commanding the crossfader, the original street architect, the rhythm provider, and the ultimate creator. We ride the heavy groove until the morning sun completely burns the fog, leaving a permanent physical mark in the heavy 92E neighborhood law. Neighborhood law. The golden shining perfectly. The golden era shining perfectly, strictly under the yellow. Lacing up the heavy wheat boots, stepping right onto the concrete stage, turning the absolute brightest page of the 94 metropolitan age. We wearing the baggy denim, sagging perfectly over the white canvas kicks, mastering the undeniable heavy physical art of the turntable tricks. I walk past the brick wall covered entirely in the heavy spray paint, where the street corner center transforms directly into the musical saint. The aerosol cans rattling, leaving a permanent colorful mark, illuminating the incredibly dangerous and unforgiving metropolitan dark. No shortcuts exist. We physically carrying the heavy plastic milk crates loaded with the classic vinyl, determining our own physical face. The DJ scratching the heavy wax right until his fingertips bleed, providing the absolute exact raw energy that the local neighborhood needs. I see the B-boy spinning perfectly on the flattened cardboard box, while the undisputed heavy analog sound completely and entirely rocks. This ain't just a musical genre, it's a massive cultural monument, a completely flawless and entirely physical 94 street document. The golden era shining perfectly, strictly under the yellow street light. The heavy boom bap rhythm completely conquering the western night. We built this entire culture directly from the absolute bottom up, drinking the pure analog history completely from the physical cup. Keep the funk guitar chopping, let the heavy horn section blow. The absolute greatest physical era that the avenue will ever know. We used to strictly pass the heavy paper flyers directly hand to hand, spreading the undisputed heavy musical gospel all across the land. You had to physically stand perfectly in the long line outside the record store just to completely, entirely secure that heavy raw sound you were looking for. No instant delivery, you had to entirely earn every single heavy track, carrying the massive analog boombox perfectly balanced right on your back. I remember the heavy cassette tape, strictly traded directly in the schoolyard, studying the complex physical lyrics written completely on the yellow card. We gather perfectly around the heavy iron fences of the basketball court, watching the absolute rawest and most physical metropolitan in sport. The chain link rattling perfectly in time with the heavy drum machine. The most incredibly vivid and heavy picture that the avenue has ever seen. The MCs battling directly in the center of a massive street circle, while the heavy afternoon sky completely slowly turns a deep purple, spitting the raw poetry, entirely capturing the absolute street truth without a completely polished and expensive corporate recording booth. The golden era shining perfectly strictly under the yellow street light. The heavy boom bap rhythm completely conquering the western night. We built this entire culture directly from the absolute bottom up, drinking the pure analog history completely from the physical cup. Keep the funk guitar chopping, let the heavy horn section blow. The absolute greatest physical era that the avenue will ever know. It was about the heavy physical connection, looking the brother in the eye before the heavy analog magic was completely forced to slowly die. We respected the heavy architects who entirely laid the foundation down. The absolute undisputed heavy pioneers of every single western town. The fashion was massive, the heavy oversized cotton flannel shirts masking the entirely undeniable and deeply rooted metropolitan herds. The heavy gold chains resting perfectly, completely on the chest, proving that the 94th Street survival was entirely the absolute best. We completely mastered the absolute heavy physical elements of the game, refusing to completely entirely chase the hollow and temporary fame. You had to strictly entirely prove your worth directly on the microphone, or completely entirely pack your bags and take the heavy walk home. The heavy drum loops completely entirely sampled from the old soul records, establishing the undeniably flawless and heavy physical street methods. I look back at the heavy magnetic tapes sitting completely on the shelf, realizing that the golden era completely entirely saved my own self. The golden era shining perfectly strictly under the yellow. Strictly. The golden era shining perfectly strictly under the yellow. The golden era shining perfectly. The heavy rain, yeah. The heavy rain is the heavy rain is beating against the window pane, running slowly down the cold glass. I'm sitting in the corner of the room, watching the shadows in the midnight pass. My fingers resting on the yellow plastic keys of a completely broken machine. The most incredibly beautifully flawed instrument that this apartment has ever seen. I spent 3 days tracing the copper pathways, mapping the electrical lines, soldering the dead resistors where the heavy dust and the rusted metal combines, calculating the voltage drop, trying to bring the silent motherboard back to life. A quiet, completely focused meditation away from the heavy metropolitan strife. It ain't a perfect instrument, the tuning dial is permanently stuck in its place. And the analog oscillators constantly drift completely out of their phase. But that exact mechanical flaw is exactly what makes the heavy plastic breathe. A genuine physical magic completely hidden right underneath my sleeve. I press a single heavy chord and a thick and perfect wave fills the entire room, pushing away the undeniable heavy weight of the city's impending doom. It's a gritty vibration carrying the heavy static of a worn out magnetic tape, providing the ultimate and entirely undeniable heavy physical escape. Because underneath that hiss, there's a profound and absolute tranquility, a raw translation of the human soul's entirely fragile and beautiful vulnerability. Outside the window, the concrete grid is a completely chaotic maze of the sirens. People losing their minds to the unforgiving heavy metal in the violent environments. But inside this square room, I completely control the flow of the electrical current. The heavy negative energy of the street becomes entirely and completely non-concurrent. Katya is laying back on the faded rug, her eyes closed, breathing in the slow air, absorbing the low-end frequency without a single heavy metropolitan care. She understands that the absolute true beauty isn't in a completely flawless sterile melody. It's in the heavy struggle of the voltage pushing through the wires, seeking its own remedy. When the synthesizer
note been slightly out of tune. It sounds exactly like a human cry. Yeah, a reflection of the heavy mistakes we made under the unforgiving western sky. It sounds like the miscalculated steps on the avenue, the heavy words we shouldn't have said, the undeniable physical weight of the past permanently resting inside the head. But this analog box takes all that heavy regret and turns it into a warm floating harmony, taking the absolute worst of the physical world and building a peaceful sonic armory. The machine doesn't judge the past, it just takes the raw electricity and translates the pain, washing the heavy, exhausted physical soul entirely clean in the analog brain. They want everything polished on the radio, the sharp edges completely sanded down to nothing. But a soul without a scratch is a soul that never walked through the heavy fire of the suffering. Twist the filter knob, cutting off the high frequencies, letting the heavy bass take control, merging the imperfect machine perfectly with the completely imperfect human soul.
Yeah. I walk directly down the shattered avenue where the heavy iron transit trains roll, looking at the massive brick walls entirely capturing the neighborhood soul. That's the first vital pillar, the heavy breaking violently shaking in the dark, leaving the undeniable, colorful and completely permanent physical mark. The graffiti writers turning an absolutely broken and rusted subway car into a moving masterpiece, completely shining like a heavy western star. It gives the completely voiceless youth a heavy visual megaphone to speak, protecting the physical spirit when the metropolitan environment is looking bleak. Then you cross the crack street and hear the heavy analog sound system blast. The DJ entirely manipulating the heavy vinyl, making the street history last. Two heavy turntables in a crossfader, the absolute second physical element, turning an abandoned neighborhood park completely into a musical parliament. The youth entirely learning how to catch the heavy break beat right on the one, keeping the chaotic avenue completely peaceful under the setting yellow sun. They strictly looping the classic soul records, discovering their own heavy roots while wearing the oversized denim and the incredibly heavy scuffed timber boots. Five heavy pillars holding the entirely broken western city up tall, the absolute undisputed physical defense against the heavy neighborhood fall. Writing, spinning, breaking, spitting, and the undeniable knowledge of the street, giving the completely lost you a heavy permanent reason to catch the beat. Keep the xylophone ringing, let the dusty jazz flute entirely cry. This physical culture is absolutely never gonna fade or completely die. I pull up in a humble compact hatchback, parking strictly on the corner curb, watching the physical expression that absolutely nothing can never disturb. The flattened cardboard boxes completely covering the dirty concrete ground. The B-boys and the B-girls catching the heavy and completely raw analog sound. The third element, the break dancing, turning the street violence into a dance, giving the heavily oppressed youth a completely genuine physical chance. They spinning perfectly on their heads, defying the heavy metropolitan gravity, replacing the dangerous street poison with the completely beautiful physical sanity. Then the heavy metal microphone is entirely passed directly to the center stage. The MC stepping up to completely and entirely turn the heavy physical page. The fourth element, the heavy poetry, strictly born from the undeniable struggle, solving the absolute most incredibly complex physical neighborhood puzzle. I write the heavy lyrics strictly on the yellow legal pad in my quiet room, pushing away the undeniable heavy accumulation of the metropolitan doom. We taking the heavy analog master tapes and distributing the sound by hand, building the absolute heaviest independent musical empire in the western land. Five heavy pillars holding the entirely broken western city up tall, the absolute undisputed physical defense against the heavy neighborhood fall. Biting, spinning, breaking, spitting, and the undeniable knowledge of the street, giving the completely lost you a heavy permanent reason to catch the beat. Keep the xylophone ringing, let the dusty jazz
physical culture is absolutely never gonna fade or completely die. But the absolute most crucial piece of the heavy physical puzzle is the mind. The fifth element is the knowledge that the youth absolutely desperately need to find. You can shake the paint can, spin the wax, or completely rip the heavy mic. But without the heavy knowledge, you just wandering down a dangerous turnpike. It's about understanding the heavy history, knowing exactly who you truly are. Navigating the complex physical universe completely without a heavy guidance star. We teaching the younger brothers how to completely own their physical master tapes, designing the absolute ultimate in heavy 92 neighborhood escapes. It ain't about the completely fake luxury or the heavy and shiny stolen gold chains. It's about the heavy intellect completely running straight through your physical veins. When you combine the five elements, you build an entirely heavy mental fortress, protecting the neighborhood, making the physical mind completely and entirely gorgeous. The heavy distorted kick drum is the absolute heartbeat of the entire operation, providing the absolute true and unfiltered 90s sweet physical street education. I watch the youth completely absorb the heavy wisdom from the original generation, building an incredibly entirely powerful and heavy independent analog nation.
The heavy light is finally fading. The heavy light is finally fading. The heavy light is I steer the hatchback down the winding heavy coastal road, leaving behind the unforgiving and stressful metropolitan load. Got caught you resting quietly with her feet up on the dashboard space. Finding a completely peaceful rhythm in this chaotic western place. We pull up to the heavy concrete barrier overlooking the deep blue, looking at the heavy smog, completely shifting the panoramic hue. The shoreline ain't exactly clean, the heavy trash is washing the shore, but the raw physical energy of the water leaves me begging for more. I close my eyes and listen to the heavy tide hitting the solid rock, translating the natural rhythm directly to the analog studio clock. Every single flaw in this landscape provides the absolute perfect grit, exactly the heavy texture that makes an authentic 95 hit. The yellow sun is dropping low, painting the heavy clouds bright red, unlocking the heavy musical arrangement strictly inside my head. I hear the kick drum bouncing perfectly on the crest of the heavy wave. This flawed and beautiful coast is exactly what the physical soul craves.
The golden hour light cuts strictly through the heavy coastal haze, providing the absolute ultimate soundtrack for the 95 days. The broken glass on the sand strictly reflects the dying sun.
This is exactly where the heavy analog rhythm
is entirely one.
Keep the fretless bass slide and let the
warm saxophone softly blow.
We capturing the raw coastal inspiration
before we absolutely go.
Yo, you can have your completely sterile and expensive downtown studio suite. I draw my heavy physical power from where the ocean and the concrete meet. I pull a small notebook directly out of my faded denim jacket pocket, writing down the heavy drum patterns, completely preparing to lock it. The cold ocean breeze is aggressively whipping completely through her hair, but we entirely completely grounded without a single metropolitan care. The distant seagulls harmonizing directly with the heavy vibraphone chords, creating a physical masterpiece that the heavy corporate label ignores. I watch the orange reflections strictly stretching across the choppy tide, fueling an undeniable and massive wave of independent musical pride. I don't need the heavy pristine conditions to create a timeless track. The absolute true beauty is hidden perfectly inside the heavy physical crack. The heavy engine of the hatchback ticking softly as it cools down, a million miles away from the heavy noise of the divided western town. I memorize the exact frequency of the heavy wind blowing off the bay, ready to press the absolute magic strictly into the wax the very next day.
The golden hour light cuts strictly through the heavy coastal haze,
provided the absolute ultimate soundtrack
for the 95 warm saxophone softly blow.
We capturing the raw coastal inspiration
before we absolutely go.
The heavy light is finally fading, leaving the dark and purple streak, providing the absolute heavy answers that the tired musicians seek. I look at the rusted metal sign standing completely against the wind. This is exactly where the heavy process of the true beat making begins. The flaws of the California coast completely make the heavy picture real, dictating exactly how the heavy SB 1200 drum machine is supposed to feel. You take the beautiful sunset and you mix it with the dirty street sand, crafting the absolute most authentic physical rhythm in the western land. We entirely perfectly absorbing the final drops of the golden light, armor in the physical spirit completely for the heavy incoming night. I turn a silver key, waking the heavy engine back from its sleep, taking the heavy coastal secrets entirely, completely, strictly to keep the warm saxophone loop carrying us perfectly back to the city grid, knowing absolutely entirely what this flawed and beautiful coastline is. The heavy bloodline in the pavement. Ain't no we strictly about genetics. We surviving the heavy struggle without the completely fake street aesthetics. They might be broken, flawed, and entirely rough around the edge, but they stood directly on the front line and kept the heavy permanent pledge. Keep the heavy cello crying, let the upright bass completely walk. We backing up every single word of the heavy neighborhood talk. Yeah, we used to crowd around the heavy static television on the weekend afternoon, watching the European football strictly underneath the pale daylight moon. Screaming at the heavy screen, wearing the faded burgundy and blue, building the absolute thickest bond that the physical neighborhood ever knew. They tell me to cut the heavy dead weight to entirely elevate my own status, to leave the completely loyal brothers behind and break the physical apparatus. But the heavy paper cash is completely entirely an optical illusion, leaving the day one crew is a completely massive spiritual confusion. When the rival blocks entirely tried to press us back to the heavy brick wall, my flawed and beautiful crew was the absolute first. The answer to call. We threw the heavy knuckles directly on the completely unforgiving concrete, refusing to accept a single drop of the completely bitter street defeat. You absolutely cannot purchase that kind of heavy physical dedication. It requires a completely massive amount of painful street education. I keep the heavy circle incredibly tight, completely strictly closed off, while the entirely fake industry executives completely entirely stare and scoff. The heavy bloodline of the pavement. Ain't no we strictly about genetics. We surviving the heavy struggle without the completely fake street aesthetics. They might be broken, flawed, and entirely rough around the edge, but they stood directly on the front line and kept the heavy permanent pledge. Keep the heavy cello crying, let the upright bass completely walk. We backing up every single word of the heavy neighborhood talk. A completely heavy storm is always brewing strictly over the metropolitan grid, but I never forget exactly what my entirely flawed brothers did. When the heavy analog masters were completely entirely rejected by the suit, they kept completely watering the heavy dirt right around my physical root. They kept me focused completely on the heavy 94 musical grind, leaving the absolute entirely completely heavy despair strictly behind. We might entirely completely argue until the heavy sun comes up, but we always perfectly entirely share the exact same physical cup. The raw drum break hitting strictly perfectly on the heavy one, proving that the original crew was absolutely entirely second to none. I don't need a perfectly polished squad of the heavy fake friends. I need the heavy raw brothers who completely ride until the absolute end. The heavy vinyl crackle perfectly, completely masking the heavy pain, walking completely shoulder to shoulder directly through the
heavy rain, the heavy bloodline of the pavement. Ain't always strictly about genetics. We survive in a heavy struggle without the completely fake street aesthetics. They might be broken, flawed, and entirely rough around the edge, but they stood directly on the front line and kept the heavy permanent pledge. Keep the heavy cello crying, let the upright bass completely walk. We backing up every single word of the heavy neighborhood talk.
We keep the physical steps relaxed, but the mental vision is undeniably sharp. Let the driving upright bass perfectly harmonize with the analog harp. Ain't no need to sprint blindly when you know exactly where the heavy road goes. Building the permanent empire while the smooth vibraphone beautifully flows. I step out to the driveway, checking the oil in the humble and reliable ride. It ain't a flashy luxury tank, but it carries a massive amount of honest pride. A compact manual engine running incredibly smooth on the gas and the fuel, navigating the complex urban grid without playing the foolish metropolitan tool. I cruise at 30 miles an hour, watching the frantic and heavy traffic race, maintaining my own undeniable, comfortable, and absolutely deliberate pace. The homies on the corner ask why I ain't out here risking it all in the dark. I tell them I'm strictly protecting the energy, guarding the vital physical spark. You cannot build a sturdy, heavy house strictly on a foundation of quicksand. You absolutely need a master's qualification to completely conquer the land. So I smile and nod respectfully, letting the crisp rim shot strictly dictate the beat. Taking a deeply meditated drive straight down the cracked concrete street. The future is a massive, complex puzzle, but I'm placing the pieces perfectly right. Trading the temporary street glory for a permanently secured and heavy bright light. I roll the window down, feeling the heavy western breeze on the shoulder. Getting significantly wiser and physically sharper as the calendar gets older. We keep the physical steps relaxed, but the mental vision is undeniably sharp. Let the driving upright bass perfectly harmonize with the analog harp. Ain't no need to sprint blindly when you know exactly where the heavy road goes. Building the permanent empire while the smooth vibraphone beautifully flows. The yellow evening sun melts directly into the heavy western metropolitan haze. I'm entirely untouched by the temporary and foolish neighborhood passing phase. I secure the heavy master tape, strictly owning the commercial rights to my sound. Keeping the heavy boots planted completely firmly on the solid, undeniable ground. Every single lyric I write, every electrical power grid I completely and safely design, is another heavy brick laid on the physical path that is permanently mine. From the laid back physical posture, but the brain is working strictly on an overdrive. The absolute most authentic and genuine way to keep the independent dream alive. They heavily mistake the silence for a lack of a proper ambition over street drive, but the quietest, most calculated moves are exactly what helps the family survive. I look at the heavy analog clock ticking slowly exactly on the living room wall, knowing I'm completely prepared to answer the heavy 94 destiny call. Let the dusty vinyl crackle fade perfectly into the cool and heavy evening breeze. I'm mapping out a 10-year master plan with the absolute undeniable physical ease. The rhythm keeps me grounded, the raw ambition keeps me strictly looking ahead, remembering every single wise word that the heavy physical ancestor said. The jazz chords slowly washing away, leaving the upright bass walking in the dark. The completely flawless execution, leaving an absolute permanent neighborhood mark. jump the iron, yeah. I jump the iron, turnstile. I jump the iron turnstile, catching the rattling subway train. Watching the graffiti blur perfectly through the dirty window pane. Every single style feels like an absolute eternity passing by. Underneath the gray and unforgiving western metropolitan sky. This ain't about just keeping the feet warm on the cold concrete. It's about projecting the ultimate status directly on the street. When you step onto the local basketball court in the crispy fresh pair, you shift the entire dynamic of the neighborhood atmosphere. The train doors finally open. I hit the pavement in a sudden dash. Holding the denim pocket tight to protect the physical cash. I see the line of the brothers rapping all around the brick wall, answering the exact same undeniable 95 sneakerhead call. No service crashing, no invisible algorithm stealing the prize. Just a raw dedication, perfectly visible directly in their eyes. I push through the wooden door, the brass bell ringing above the glass. Watching the heavy tension in the crowded room slowly pass. The owner recognizes the face, pulling the cardboard box from the back. The holy grail of the pavement, the flawless white and black. I carefully lift the cardboard lid, smelling the fresh glue and leather. The exact armor required to survive the brutal street weather. No synthetic meshes, just a pure, undisputed premium hide. Filling the exhausted soul with an undeniable metropolitan pride. I hand over the crumpled bills, every single penny hard earned, proving exactly what the independent pavement hustle has learned. I tie the thick laces perfectly tight, stepping out of the store, feeling invincible, ready for the daily neighborhood war. The squeak of the fresh rubber echoing right on the cement, proving exactly where the physical working week salary went. People breaking their necks just to catch a quick visual glimpse, respecting the raw physical steps of the independent street pimps. You couldn't just click a button sitting safely in your living room. You had to navigate the danger of the metropolitan gloom. The kick drum marching in sync with every fresh step I take, knowing exactly what kind of sacrifices I had to make. We wearing the art directly on our feet, walking on a masterpiece, hoping the golden era of the physical hunt will never cease. The heavy plastic paws, yeah. Pressing the heavy plastic pause button, waiting for the exact moment. The radio DJ talking over the intro, messing up the whole component. I got the dual deck system running extremely hot on the bedroom floor. A massive pile of blank 90-minute tapes, strictly stacked up by the door. Yeah, Deck A is loaded with the raw underground midnight radio broadcast. Deck B is spinning slow, capturing the heavy shadows of the past. Waiting for the absolute perfect fraction of a second to hit record chord, slicing the audio perfectly clean, exactly like a heavy samurai sword. Yeah, you gotta release the tension right before the heavy snare drum drops. Praying the silver antenna keeps the signal before the local station stops. This ain't an invisible sequence generated out of the metropolitan air. This is a heavily curated physical soundtrack handled with the utmost care. I'm pulling the tangled magnetic ribbon, fixing the jam with the yellow pencil, designing the heavy cardboard cover art, strictly using a plastic stencil. Katya is sitting cross-legged on the rug, writing the track list in blue ink, translating the heavy street vibration right into the permanent missing link. Every single transition is carefully calculated directly inside the brain, blending the East Coast boom bap strictly with that heavy western rain. Yeah, passing these plastic shells directly hand to hand on the concrete avenue, providing the exact heavy rhythm that the struggling neighborhood knew. You can't just skip the track if you temporarily don't like the heavy sound. You gotta let the magnetic reel entirely and strictly spin round and round.
Respecting the specific sequence that the local sonic architect designed, leaving the chaotic and completely unorganized metropolitan
noise behind.
The fast forward gears grinding incredibly loudly inside the plastic case, searching for the exact specific groove in a heavily crowded
Physical space.
We circulate in the raw audio without a single expensive corporate suit, planting the heavy underground seed and watching the undeniable room. The bass line bleeding slightly through the cheap magnetic tape hiss, creating the exact physical imperfection that the neighbor
will miss.
A 90-minute sonic journey strictly built for the long independent ride, holding a massive amount of authentic and unbreakable
Physical pride.
I'm on it to the red glowing equalizer lights bouncing perfectly on the glass, watching the quiet hours of the heavy 94 weekend
Smoothly pass.
You had to calculate the minutes so the song wouldn't cut off at the end. A heavy mathematical puzzle strictly solved for a close
Neighborhood friend.
When the tape finally clicks and the heavy mechanical auto reverse kicks in, you flip the plastic shell over and let the B-side magic
Absolutely begin.
This is the undeniable street currency, the heavy analog neighborhood gold, carrying the absolute greatest 94 stories that were ever
Physically told.
I pop the heavy cassette out, snapping it safely directly into the clear shell. Another flawless artifact, perfectly rescued from the loud
Metropolitan hell.
The dual deck mechanism clicking loudly as it completely and finally shuts down, ready to strictly distribute the heavy analog gospel
throughout the entire town.
Yeah, we shrink wrapping the heavy plastic shells right in the living room, escaping the corporate trap in the heavy metropolitan gloom, catching right in the track list down with a thick black permanent marker. Preparing the independent sound right before the sky gets darker. We load the cardboard boxes directly into the heavy Chevy trunk, packed to the brim with the rawest 94 neighborhood funk. I turn the heavy metal key, the dual exhaust starts to rumble, ready to navigate the unforgiving concrete street jungle. No major label advance, no executives in the high glass tower, just the pure analog voltage and the absolute independent power. Pulling up to the crowded lot, parking under the yellow street lamp, establishing the undisputed heavy physical underground camp. I pop the heavy iron trunk lid, letting the hydraulic hinges creak. This is exactly how the true 94th Street hustlers speak. We stack the clear cassettes perfectly row by row in the dark, leaving a completely permanent and undeniable physical mark. I got the heavy boombox sitting safely on the roof of the classic ride, pushing the volume dial up, projecting the heavy western pride. The slapping funk bass rattling the windows of the passing cars, selling the absolute rawest and completely unfiltered physical bars. A brother walks up, drops a crumpled $5 bill in my hand, the most authentic financial transaction in this unforgiving land. I slide the plastic cassette directly into his open waiting palm, delivering a heavy dose of the undeniable analog street calm. They ask who produced the heavy kick drum and the melodic slide. I tap my chest, showing the absolute independent musical pride. We bypassing the heavy industry gatekeepers in the radio station, building a completely self-sustained physical underground nation. Every single tape sold is another heavy brick in the permanent wall, answering the undeniably righteous and heavy hip-hop cultural call. The cardboard boxes getting lighter as the midnight hour approaches, dodging the neighborhood predators and the metropolitan roaches. The heavy moog synthesizer crying perfectly out of the speaker cones, vibrating directly straight through the heavy concrete and the bones. We slam the trunk closed, locking the heavy independent revenue safe, escaping the heavy restrictions of the corporate metropolitan space. Cruising back down the boulevard, the street lights reflecting off the hood, knowing the physical independent grind is absolutely and entirely good. The analog legacy pressed permanently onto the brown magnetic tape, the absolute ultimate and flawless 94 physical street escape. rolling the compact hatchback straight through the heavy avenue. A completely, entirely flawless 94 physical point of view. It might be flawed, but the heavy iron was bought with the honest sweat. The absolute greatest and sweetest physical street victory yet. Keep the jazz guitar playing, let the hammer and organ strictly rise. The true independent wealth is shining perfectly right in my eyes. She got the dual system pumping, running perfectly on the gas and the petrol, giving me the absolute undeniable and heavy financial street control. I ain't burning up the heavy paper cash just to look rich for the block. I'm navigating the avenue perfectly, entirely off the metropolitan clock. The heavy transmission clunks a little bit when I shift into the second gear, but it sounds exactly like the absolute sweetest music to my physical ear. The neighborhood kings laughing in their massive heavy luxury rides, while I'm entirely completely filled with the absolute purest honest pride. They leased their heavy machines or bought them with the poisonous dime, while I was stacking the legitimate paper, exactly one bill at a time. The 1.3 liter working hard to push us completely straight up the steep hill, providing the most undeniably raw and absolutely beautiful physical thrill. I roll the manual windows down, letting the heavy warm breeze entirely in, washing away the heavy accumulation of the metropolitan physical sin. Every single dent on the heavy metal door tells an honest and raw story, reflecting the entirely, completely undeniable and heavy independent glory. Rolling the compact hatchback straight through the heavy avenue. A completely, entirely flawless 94 physical point of view. It might be flawed, but the heavy iron was bought with the honest sweat. The absolute greatest and the sweetest physical street victory yet. Keep the jazz guitar playing, let the hammer and organ strictly rise. The true independent wealth is shining perfectly right in my eyes. I pull into the driveway, watching the heavy dust right off the glass, watching the heavy afternoon shadows entirely, completely and smoothly pass. This little hatchback is a massive physical monument to the discipline, proving exactly where the heavy and true physical elevation can begin. I don't need a heavy engine to entirely prove my worth to the street. I just need the heavy rubber tires rolling perfectly over the concrete, knowing entirely that no bank and no heavy creditor can take it away. The absolute flawless conclusion to an undeniably heavy working day. I check the heavy oil topping off the fluids right under the iron hood, feeling entirely, absolutely, incredibly and undeniably physically good. She might shake a little perfectly when I hit the heavy highway speed, but she entirely, completely fulfills my absolute and true physical need. The jazz guitar loop entirely, completely masking the engine rattle, celebrating the absolute flawless victory of this heavy physical battle. I lock the heavy door, putting the steel key perfectly inside my coat. The undisputed captain of this humble and beautifully honest street boat, rolling the compact hatchback straight through the heavy avenue. A completely, entirely flawless 94 physical point of view. It might be flawed, but the heavy iron was bought with the honest sweat. The absolute greatest, the sweetest physical street victory. Keep the jazz guitar playing, let the hammer and organ strictly rise. The true independent wealth is shining